About now. It'll take just a second.
Ready.
Hello, hello, hello. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Don't listen to us.
Communication.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'd like to welcome everybody to the regular Prince George County School Board meeting for July the 14th. The board has been in closed session. I need a motion to come out of closed session.
I move that we reconvene in open session and state that the Prince George County School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to affirmative recorded vote in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. And that the Prince George County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. There's a motion. Can I get a second?
Second motion.
Second by Mr. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Pennycup for certification of closed meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Ely. In personnel matter P01-2122, the recommendation is the approval by the school board of the coordinator of educational technology and innovation as recommended.
You've heard the recommendation, Dr. Pennycup. Can I get a motion?
I make a motion that we accept P01-21-22.
Motion by Ms. Taylor,
Second motion.
second by Mr. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes.
Thank you. In personnel matter
Motion carries.
P02-2122, the recommendation is the approval by the school board of the recommendation for coordinator of testing and accountability.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we accept P02-21-22.
Motion by Ms. Taylor,
Second
second by Mr. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. In student matter S01-2122, information only.
Thank you. As you can see, there are other closed session items that we did not get to that we will have to go back in later to discuss. So at this time, can everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Ms. Andrews, if you can lead that, and Mr. Johnson, if you can lead us in the school board invocation.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the rich blessings. We're grateful for this time that the students take a break, and we pray for their safety and well-being and health. And we ask for thy continued blessing of peace to be upon our community. We pray that we might have the inspiration, the wisdom, and the guidance to do those things that would be right and true and correct, and that would allow our children to be educated at the highest level. And these things we pray humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Board members, you have your agenda in front of you. If there are no other additions, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
A second.
second by Ms. Taylor. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. You have the approval of the minutes from the June 7th, 2021 regular school board meeting, June 16th, 2021 regular special school board meeting. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we cumulatively approve the minutes.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
A second.
roll call, second by Ms. Taylor. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. Now we have special recognitions, new faces and new places. Dr. Pennycup.
Tonight, we are thrilled to introduce some of our newest Prince George family. The first person that we'd like to introduce is our new principal of Prince George Education Center, Mr. Burke George. So we'd like to invite you up, Mr. George, and please bring your family with you. We are glad you are here. I believe you're missing one.
Softball practice.
Had to be there for the team picture.
Please join us in welcoming Mr. Burke George as the new principal of the Prince George Education Center. Mr. George's background includes secondary teaching, experience as an industrial cooperative training teacher, service as a workplace readiness coordinator, human resource manager, and most recently as a secondary principal. In these positions, his notable achievements include all areas of supervision and evaluation of large faculties, strategic planning, and collaboration with division leadership in technology, transportation, maintenance, and other leaders for successful school operations. He is adept in establishing relationships through experiences in his work with market, industry, and business partnerships, as well as community leaders and industrial cooperative training programs. As an athletic coach and new community member in Prince George, Mr. George is the ideal candidate to serve the student body and faculty of the Prince George Education Center. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Burke George as the principal of Prince George Education Center. Please do.
Thank you, Dr. Pennycup. That was quite the introduction. Let me just start by, I'd like to thank Dr. Pennycup and our school board for this opportunity. My family and I could not be happier not only to be joining the Prince George Public Schools family, but also the Prince George community. My most fundamental belief as an educator is that every student has the ability to grow and to achieve. And I look forward to serving the students, families, and the staff here in Prince George.
And Mr. George, if I could, we'll introduce your family, and we'll start with your lovely wife, who happens to be our Associate Director of Student Services, Mrs. Crystal George. And your son, please.
Yeah, this is my son, Grant. He's 11 years old. He'll be at Moore Middle School next year. And then our daughter is missing. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and she's at practice right now, getting ready. Her team is actually playing in the Dixie Youth World Series next weekend here in the county. So we've just got a few practices left. So
Wonderful. We're all excited about that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. And we're going to ask that our new faces stay with us. We're going to have a time at the end of our recognitions where our school board would like to come down and get a chance to meet you. Thank you. Our next wonderful addition to the leadership team here in Prince George is Dr. Abby Martin, the new principal of Prince George High School. Dr. Martin, would you please come up and bring your family with you? Welcome, welcome. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Abby Martin as the new principal of Prince George High School. Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin grew up in Williamsburg and attended Bruton High School. After graduation, she attended the College of William and Mary for 2 years before marrying her husband, who was in the military. She completed her undergraduate degree at Rogers State University in Oklahoma and went on to receive her Master of Arts and doctorate from Liberty University. Dr. Martin's educational experiences include having served as an earth science and biology teacher at New Kent High School and Jamestown High School, service as a coordinator of science K-12 for the York County School Division, and most recently as the assistant principal of Grafton High School in York County, a position that she has held for the past 5 years. During the pandemic, she was also called on to lead the Secondary Virtual Academy for the York County School Division. She has served as the principal of their Secondary Summer Academy for the past 3 years. Dr. Martin is an exceptional instructional leader whom we are excited to see bring the spirit of lead, innovate, and inspire to her work at Prince George High School. Welcome, Dr. Martin.
Thank you all so much, board members, Dr. Pennycuff, Mr. Barnes. It's been a pleasure getting to know the staff and the community here at Prince George County. And I'm thrilled to be a part of the great work that we are doing here in the county to make sure that our students have a great place to learn. So I look forward to getting to know all of you and being a part of the service leadership here in the county.
Thank you, Dr. Martin. Will you introduce your sweet family to us?
Absolutely. With me today is my husband, Owen Martin, and our 2 children, Joshua and Hannah. And they are about to turn 15 here next week on Monday and attend school with my husband who works at Jamestown High.
Wonderful. We're thankful you're here.
Thank you.
Very good.
And our next addition is Mrs. Elizabeth Pell. Mrs. Pell, please join us, and please, do you have your family here with you too? Wonderful. Please bring them up with you. Mrs. Elizabeth Pell is the new principal of Beasley Elementary School. Mrs. Pell earned her Bachelor of Arts degree from Christopher Newport University, a Master of Science from Old Dominion University, and her Education Specialist degree from the George Washington University. Mrs. Pell serves as an elementary school teacher for 8 years and as an assistant principal for 16 years with service in York County and Williamsburg, James City County. Mrs. Pell's experiences include implementing the tiered system of supports, leadership roles at large schools with over 750 students, fine arts and STEM magnet schools, service in a high-performing Blue Ribbon award-winning school, and working in schools in a division with 7 military installations for a wealth of experience in working with military-connected families. Additionally, the highlights of Mrs. Pell's accomplishments as a leader include close collaboration with student services and the coordination of services for students with individualized education plans, 504s, and the tiered systems of support process, as well as being trained in several positive behavioral support approaches. With an emphasis on social emotional learning needs, her training and experiences encompass effective practices such as crisis prevention and intervention, nonviolent crisis intervention, and strategies to positively impact student behavior and inclusive school leadership practices. As a member of the School and University Research Network with the College of William & Mary, she is trained on cutting-edge practices for instruction and leadership. Her educational training, certification, and experiences are matched by her enthusiasm and passion for student-driven success and is evident in her work as a school leader. We are extremely excited for her to bring her depth of instructional leadership experience to the Prince George family as the new principal of Beasley Elementary School. Mrs. Pell, please share a few words with us and introduce your family.
Well, thank you so much for that welcome. That's amazing, and it's been a long time in education. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be coming to Beasley Elementary School. Very proud to be joining that family and continuing with the many wonderful traditions of that school and getting to know the members of the community and continue building new traditions with their families. I did bring my family with me today. I have my husband Jason with me and my daughter Taylor, who is 13 years old. She's in middle school. My daughter Emma, who's 12 in middle school, and also my father.
Wonderful. Welcome. Thank you for being here. We have one more new face to introduce. We'd like to welcome up Mrs. Stephanie Thompson, our new assistant principal at J.E.J. Moore Middle School and her family. Welcome, welcome. Prince George County Public Schools is proud to welcome Miss Stephanie Thompson as our new assistant principal of J.E.J. Moore Middle School. Mrs. Thompson earned her Bachelor of Science degree from Longwood University, graduating magna cum laude. She went on to earn her MED in Educational Leadership and Supervision from Old Dominion University in 2019. Ms. Thompson has spent the last 18 years teaching English, math, and history to 6th and 7th grade students. During this time, she's had the opportunity to develop curriculum, to organize a professional development fair, to serve as an after-school administrator for remediation, and work to develop plans for meeting compulsory attendance with the division's attendance officer and families. Ms. Thompson lives here in Prince George with her husband, Dickie, and their 2 children, Olivia and Stephen. Her educational experiences will be a great asset to the J.E.J. Middle School team.
Thank you.
Mrs. Thompson, please say a few words.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pennycuff, and all members of the Prince George County Public School Board. I am just so excited for this amazing opportunity to serve our students, the staff, families, and the entire Prince George community. I'm so excited to be a part of the J.E.J. Moore family, and I look forward to meeting and working with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And what grade are your children in?
So Olivia is a rising 9th grader at Clements, and Stephen will be joining me at Moore as a 6th grader.
Lucky Stephen. Lucky Stephen. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have also 2 familiar faces and new places. And tonight we celebrate Miss Maddie Thweet's promotion, and I don't know if she's up there. Is she on? Oh, good, okay. We can see we can see she's there. Hello, Miss Maddie. Congratulations.
Hello.
She is traveling. I believe you are in California or on your way. Is that correct? Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Tonight, we congratulate Mrs. Thweet on her promotion to the Associate Director of School Administration for Prince George County Public Schools. Mrs. Thweet has served in education for 20 years, with 13 of those in Prince George County Public Schools leadership roles, with service to the county as an assistant principal at N.B. Clements and a principal at both Walton Elementary and the Prince George Education Center. During her service, she has been instrumental in the development and implementation of alternative services and programming, and has impacted the lives of many students to see successful outcomes and growth. The experience she brings with the tiered system of support are a natural progression to the area of school administration, along with her work in the areas of positive behavioral interventions, curriculum, instruction and assessment alignment, and data-driven decision-making, all for improved outcomes for students. Please join us in welcoming Miss Maddie Thweet as our new Associate Director of School Administration. Maddie, would you like to share any words with us?
Can you hear me? I'm in a tunnel. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much to the chairman of the board, the vice chair, all school board members, Dr. Pennycuff and Mr. Barnes, and other central office staff. I've done this work I've done in Prince George County for the last 15 years. We've got
We love you, Maddie. You are lagging and you are making some faces that are making us very proud of you, Maddie. Do we have Miss Christina Pope? Yes, we do. Miss Pope, I don't know, did you bring your family with you tonight? Well, Mrs. Parton has agreed to come be your family. So, And the Student Services Department is a family, so thank you, Ms. Barton. So Miss Christina Pope is a Prince George High School graduate. She came back to us a few years ago from her role as an ITRT, Instructional Technology Resource Teacher in South Carolina. She came to take one of the open positions we had in the area of student services and special education. And even then, she used her technology skills and Google to help others. She helped with special ed, she helped with technology, and she was a leader from the day she got here. She became the assistant principal at Prince George High School, where she has been well loved. And she has found that as much as she loves working at the school level as an assistant principal, her heart is in student services. So she is transitioning back as a coordinator of student services, and we are thrilled that she is finding the right spot for her so that she will stay with us for a long time. So Mrs. Pope, please share with us anything you'd like to add.
Just thank you for this new opportunity that I can grow and create new experiences for me as an educator, and I'm just excited to be a little more of a part of the Student Services Department.
And family. So when she said about family tonight, I said, well, I'll be there. We're family.
That's right.
Just as much time together. So we're very excited to have her as a part of our team and our family. And she has already said far too many times, let me show you that. Let me help you with that. Let me teach you something. So it's just, we have felt her impact and her leadership and her knowledge already within our team. And we feel very fortunate to have her.
And we're thankful she can now help more schools. So thank you. We're glad to have you.
Appreciate it.
We are now ready to recognize our retirees, and we'd like to invite our school board to go down and please get ready to greet this wonderful group of people who will be graduating from us, never leaving. We've told them they're family, and families don't ever really leave. They might go on vacation for a while, like Mr. and Mrs. Elliott, but we know they'll return.
Yeah.
Our first person that we'd like to celebrate is Miss Karen Belcher. She is an office associate at South. She's not here tonight. We have Mr. and Mrs. Elliott, and we would like to invite them to come up together. Mrs. Elliott has served here in the county for 37 years. She is currently a guidance counselor at North, and Mr. Elliott has served the division for 41 years. We are so proud of them and all that they have done for this county. Mr. Elliott, Mrs. Elliott, we'd like to give you a few minutes to share any words of wisdom that you would like to share with the group.
Dr. Pennycuff, Mr. Barnes, and members of the school board. It has indeed been a pleasure to be an educator in this wonderful county. I came here at 26 years old, young, had just gotten married, and I've been here for 32 years. I did 5 years in Lunenburg before coming, but this is my home, and I consider everyone that I've worked with as my family. It's been a wonderful journey. I've had wonderful students. I have had wonderful parents. I've had wonderful colleagues and administrators. So it has truly been a memorable experience, and I will always cherish my time in Prince George County. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you.
I actually think I just need to sit down. She's covered that so well. I do want to just take a moment, and three things came to my mind, and I thought about blessings, the privilege, and that's what it's been here in this county for the 41 years that I've been here. And there's so many people I can thank because, you know, the interesting thing about life and your experiences in your career is that when you go through life, people gift you. I think about all of the folks who have gifted me and gifted Vicki and have contributed greatly to our growth and development as professionals. So we often talk about things that we do for children, and children are number one, and we have to have experiences for them that make a difference. It's all about. But sometimes you have to reflect and thank the children, as Vicki said, the parents, the community, teachers that I've worked with, school board members who've been supportive, our superintendents who've been supportive. I think about Mrs. Andrews, we go back and how we're connected. So I just want to thank this district for the blessing, first of all, and the privilege of having you welcome me as a family. And I often tell the story that I did my student teaching here, and my original assignment for student teaching was actually in Chesterfield. They made a real swap on me, and everybody was like, well, we don't know what's going on, but you'll be going to Prince George. I have not regretted 1 minute of it. I think things work out, divine intervention happens, and you don't know why. But Prince George has been a home. I hope that I can continue to support this district in some way, but thank you for what you have given us. We're leaving, and we're taking those gifts with us, and they're going to serve as fuel as we move forward. So thank you. We love you all. We love the children and the community. Thank
Our next retiree is Mrs. Bonnie Pendergrass. She has been an Office Associate 3 at Moore with 42 years of experience. So Mrs. Pendergrass, after you give your hugs, please make your way to the podium and share a few words of wisdom with us.
Well, hard to believe that this is coming to an end. I've actually been in Prince George for 32 years, and I was in Hopewell for 10 prior to that. And it's been a great ride. I have always loved what I do. I think that's why I stuck at the schools. I love the kids. I've loved working with the parents and the grandparents. And I've made so many friends, and it's been wonderful. But you know, that door opens and you say it's time. I know when I was about 50 or 55, I said, I'm not going to retire when I get retirement age. I'm not going to tell you how old I am. When I get retirement age. But then all of a sudden that door opened and I'm at retirement age and I figured it was time to go. So I am excited to cut off that 4:15 alarm. That is the first thing I'm going to do. And then from there, I don't know. I have 3 granddaughters, and I'll probably spend a lot of time with them, things that I've missed prior to this. So thank you all, and it has been wonderful. And I'm going to miss all the people. I'm not going to miss the stress. I'm not going to miss the work, but I am going to miss all my friends and coworkers.
And we're going to miss you. Our next retiree is Miss Lori Poitras. She's not here tonight. Is Mr. Tucker here? Miss Poitras is in Hawaii celebrating. Right. Is Mr. Tucker with us tonight? Mr. George Tucker has served as the head custodian at Moore, and he has 33 years of experience.
That man will be short and sweet. I want to tell you, I started working in Prince George back in '88 at the Old North. And I enjoy every bit of work with Prince George County, 33 years. Enjoy the service. Enjoy the people I work with, Coach Bonnie, and I'm gonna miss everybody, the kids, staff, and stuff like that. But I will be stopping stuff that once in a while, so.
Please do, and you know, any of our retirees who want to substitute, we take you back.
That's right.
Just like I told Mr. Elliott, we will find jobs for him to consult back with. He will never be too far gone.
So I'm gonna let somebody about it.
Thank you.
Mr. We're going to come down first.
Okay, all right.
Happy retirement. Thank you for all the contributions. Thank you.
Really good work.
That's right. He's got a list.
Well, and for those of you that don't know, Mr. Elliott has a 93-year-old mother that he's going to get to spend more time with. So
I
we're
am
happy
looking
for
so
you.
forward to I'm looking forward to that. Yes, thank you.
Thank
We take a break now?
Yes.
We're gonna take a short break just so the board members can go down and meet the new faces that are here. And then we'll be right back, so it won't be 5 minutes. We're just gonna, board members are gonna meet the new people and then we'll be right back. Oh, no, you're good. Yes,
I'll break it with
Thank you, that's perfect.
All right, board members, if we can everybody move back this way, get restarted.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
We're excited.
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, are you ready for us? Very
Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, that was fun. Do we really have to restart? Yes.
All right, now we're going to move to the public hearing portion. Moving on to a public hearing is advertised to accept the public comment on the American Rescue Plan Act and Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund 3 allocation to Prince George County Public Schools.
And Mrs. Barnes is going to start us off with a PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Pennicuff, and good evening, Mr. Chairman, other school board members, Dr. Pennicuff, Mr. Barnes, and all assembled. In preparation for our public hearing, I'm just going to highlight the reason for the public hearing and provide information on the specific uses of this grant, the American Rescue Plan Act, Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund number 3. First of all, the purpose of this federal grant is to help safely reopen and sustain the safe operations of our schools. And the second purpose is to address the impact and the pandemic has had on our nation's students. Prince George County Public Schools has been awarded $4,988,272.08. This is an allocation for which we must submit an application explaining our intended uses for the grant, and at least 20% of this must be used to address the academic impact from any loss of instructional time during the pandemic. So next, in addition to submitting the application, there are 3 additional requirements that we must meet. First, school divisions must develop a plan to bring students back to in-person instruction. As you know, Prince George County Public Schools has been providing in-person instruction since September of 2020. And our plan has been posted to our website since last summer. Second, we're required to collect opinions from our interested stakeholders, which is why the survey was created and sent out to our families and staff. We're also required to collect information in the same manner as is customary for the school division. As this relates to budget, and we hold a public hearing on our budget each year, this is the reason we're holding a public hearing tonight. The final requirement is that once we've collected a public opinion, we'll formulate our plan, and this will be posted on the division's website by August the 1st. So as I mentioned earlier, we may only spend the funding in very specific areas, and this has been written into the appropriation code. We may spend it in as many or as few of the areas as applicable. The funds may be used to address needs created by learning loss, especially for school divisions who have not operated on full schedules. They may be used for additional activities for special education, adult education, and CTE. Another use is for repairs to facilities that will help reduce the risk of spreading the virus. The funds may also be used for the inspection, testing, maintenance, replacement, and upgrades to systems that will improve air quality. They may also be used to provide school leaders with needed resources. This may be materials, training sessions, personnel, etc. Some additional uses for the funds include providing programs that will address the needs of children from low-income families, children with disabilities, English learners, minorities, homeless students, and children in foster homes. Another acceptable use for the funds is for training and professional development for our staff relating to the sanitation and the minimization of the spread of the infectious diseases. We may also use the funds to purchase supplies for cleaning and sanitizing facilities. Here are 4 additional approved uses: planning and coordination of efforts to provide for meals, technology for online learning, and guidance on the needs for individuals with disabilities should there be additional long-term closures. The funds may be used for purchasing needed technology. They may be used for providing mental health services and support systems. And finally, the funds may be used to maintain regular operations and to keep staff employed. So these are the uses that have been specifically written into the federal act. So this was just an overview of the requirements of the grant, and we can prepare to begin our public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, is there anyone that would like to come forward to speak for or against the American Rescue Plan and Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund 3, the allocation of Prince George County Public Schools? Hearing and seeing no one, will close the public hearing at this time. We'll move on to presentations, the ESS, corrections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Am I allowed to ask questions? Have to fill it out and come up there and all that? 'Cause I'll do either one. Or I'll just ask it.
Can you come forward?
Absolutely.
If you could, sir, just state your name, address.
My name is Neil Jernigan. My address is 15145 South Cradle Road, South Prince George, Virginia, 23805. My question on any federal funding, federal bill of this nature where we're thinking it's glorious to receive this funding is if you actually research that bill, it is tons of bills underneath that headline. It's not just one bill. And I'm curious as to whether, cumulatively, we have taken the time to research each one of those bills before we consider this. Because there may be a lot of things in there that you yourselves are not happy with. Things are snuck into these bills at all times. I just ask that you please research it before you just move forward and implement it. Thank you.
Dr. Pennycuff, can you give us an update on the survey?
Yes. Our survey has been out for approximately 2 weeks now. We've received 1,422 responses. Of those responses, the top 3 that families have informed us that they believe are most important are to improve the air quality within the school facilities, including mechanical and non-mechanical heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, including the control systems, window and door repair and replacement, the school facility repairs and improvements to enable operation of schools to reduce the risk of the virus transmission and exposure. So we have heard from our families that HVAC and anything that's going to cut down on the transmission of virus or anything that would improve the air quality are the 2 most important things. And the third was the purchase of educational technology for students. So of the 1,422 respondents, the indoor air quality received 895 or 62.98%. The doing facility repairs and improvements to prevent the virus transmission received 874. And the purchase of educational technology for students received 777. Additionally, we had 2 families email us with their thoughts and we recorded those. So thank you all for helping inform our recommendations.
Thank you, Dr. Pennycuff. And at this time, we'll move back to Dr. Estes with the ESS Human Resources update.
Good evening, Chairman of the Board, Mr. Ely, board members, Dr. Pennycuff, and Mr. Barnes, and community members. We are delighted to follow all of the other joyous celebrations and recognitions this evening and hope that you will find this presentation will also be a successful story for us to tell with our relationship with ESS Staffing Solutions, who provided substitute services for us starting this past school year. So I will be introducing Ms. Jamie Marmorelli, who is the Vice President of Operations with ESS, who is joining us via Zoom link this evening. And she's going to share her presentation with us along with 2 other colleagues, and I'll let her introduce her team members along with our fabulous on-site office manager, Nunu Pasick.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Mr. Lepastic. I go by Nunu. I'm the on-site account manager for Prince George County Public Schools. Thank you for having me tonight.
All right. And so we'll cue up Mrs. Marmorelli.
We can't hear you currently. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
While they're trying to cue her up, I will share that we are very pleased with the relationship that we have established with ESS this year and the success, especially given the circumstances and challenges that we faced during the pandemic year. And so I hope you'll be pleased to see the results of our collaborative efforts tonight with ESS.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Sorry, everyone. You would think we'd be experts at Zoom. Just want to say thank you so much, Dr. Pennycup, Dr. Estes, and board for having us here tonight. We're very excited. We love this partnership. It's been wonderful since the beginning. And one of the things I wanted to just talk about was the beginning. Last summer, in the middle of the pandemic, completely shut down, we quite literally Zoomed our way through the implementation. All of our meetings, onboarding of the substitutes, just getting everything set up system-wide, hiring the on-site team. Nunu, you're wonderful. Thank you so much for being there to support our company and the district and the students of Prince George. And it was just a wonderful experience to work with Dr. Estes and her team and really make this thing happen against, an uncertain time. So really appreciate it. And I think the key for us is we really want everyone to think of us as an extension of your human resources team. We're here, we have the same vision, mission. We're here to support these children every day to make sure they have a qualified person in that building when that employee is out. We realize the value of every single employee and their values of their role. And so we're really appreciative and happy to be part of your team. Every couple times a year, mid-year and end of year, we do a full review. We're just going to go through a few slides with you today, but as Dr. Estes and Dr. Pennycup can attest to, it's typically about 30 slides long. We love to do deep dives in the data, see what's going on, see where we're at. It allows the district to know how we're performing. It allows us to know how we're performing, to identify trends, what we need to work on, particular areas we may need to recruit. And it's just wonderful that we can be there and really devote 365 days to your substitute program. So the next slide is going to show you just a brief overview of what our total fill rate, how many fills, what our percentages are, and broken down by employee type. So for me, when I look at these things, and as we're as a team going through them, we're identifying, okay, where do we need help and what is happening. So coming in with teachers, we came in at an 85%. For custodians, we came in at a 99%. And then my big red flag was, okay, for paraprofessionals, we came in at a 47%. I said, okay, that's not typically normal. Yes, it's a COVID year. We definitely want to see where the trends are. So we dove deeper into that particular section and come to find out that 156 of our unfilled absences were 3 hours and 45 minutes or less. So we know that typically the harder to fill positions are going to be those half days. A substitute might not want to travel across the district just to do 3 hours, a 3-hour assignment. So that allowed us to say, okay, that's something that we on our end can take a look at and see if we can secure some substitutes to be able to go to those last minute absences, to those half day positions. So we really are going to be focused on that this summer and going into next school year. We have the office associate positions, and there are 2 up there. And you see there's 4 from the bottom. And I said, okay, why are there 2 office associate positions? Well, for some reason, one particular employee who took a couple week vacation was not lumped into the other office associate categories. And so that particular one toward the bottom was actually an individual absence. And then with the admin, we came at 98, library 66. So another thing we need to take a look at and find out, can we secure some more people who specialize in media and library, focus on recruiting around that. And then the JROTC, we missed apparently one of the instructors was out for 3 days and we missed 2 of those. So we're sorry about that and we'll work on that. And then also the student services position. So again, this just helps us identify these trends. And if you go to the next slide, it just gives you our overall fill rate. And I do want to mention that I pulled the data from the year prior, and I know our year was shortened due to COVID, but the trending fill rate as of that March 15th date, the district was at an 80% fill rate. So although we've been in a pandemic, we've lost many of the substitutes, we've had to rebuild, rehire, we still came in this school year about 5% higher than last year during a normal, typical school year. Our goal and our plan and our mission is always to be 95% or above. I believe that we will be able to get there now that we're coming out of this current situation. A lot of our subs are coming back to work, and we've been hiring and recruiting, and we'll continue to do that over the entirety of the summer until we come into that next school year to make sure that we're prepared to fulfill the needs that are coming in from the district. The next slide will show you a breakdown by location. And again, this is so important for us. We need to know, are there particular positions that we need to recruit for? Are there particular schools that we need to recruit for? So a lot of collaborating will need to happen with our schools that are not in those 90 percentiles. So right now we have 7 of the school locations that are in the 90s. We have 3 that are in the 80s and 3 that are in the 70s. So for us as a team, we're going to sit down and take a look at those that are in the 70s and 80s, figure out where those positions are, what we need to do, maybe do some on-site recruiting. And I don't want to take Nuni's thunder away from her because she's going to be talking about her strategies and things that she's doing. But it really just gives us the opportunity to improve, to know where our holes are, so that we can target recruit and fill those particular positions. The next slide is going to be the recruitment strategy. New, do you want to come up? If you're not already still standing, I can't see you. Just talk a little bit about some of the things that you're working on right now.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Jamie. So a couple of things to start off for our recruitment strategy in our digital area. So I am speaking with the Prince George County District website, so I can have our page we put on there as well, have a link probably created so that when people do see the district website, they can go and apply for substitute positions. We have posted jobs on Indeed, Glassdoor, Facebook especially. We also do have career services website with colleges and technical schools. So I'm in speaking with John Tyler Community College, and I have our job apply posted on there, as well as with Handshake for VCU and Virginia State Universities or some of the nearby universities. For some local, we are partnering with retailers, hospital, churches, libraries, Department of Social Labor offices, as well as, again, colleges and tech schools. In terms of our hiring events, I am looking to conduct 2 new hire orientations and training events per week, if it's via Zoom or face-to-face. And the goal is to have about 4 to 7 applicants per class, and of course, increasing our sub-pools to 220 substitutes. In terms of career fairs, we have partnered for virtual career fairs with the Virginia Employment Commission, where we do a Super Tuesday career fair, kind of like a chat room. Everyone jumps in, hears about it. We also do have permission from them. They have posted my flyer today. I got notification that they posted our job fair flyer that we will be holding at Prince George School Board office on Monday, July 26th. They're also going to be posting my flyers out as well, just in general for our hiring events. And they have invited me as well to their in-person career fair in September. I'm invited over, so I will be heading over to that. And of course, any other college career fairs as well, such as John Tyler's. I have spoken to Ashley Penny. She is the career services coordinator there. She's allowing me to post flyers with the schools, and if they are holding any career events later on when school starts back up, I will be able to have access to that. And then of course, some street team and grassroots. So we want to advertise ESS flyers and refresh yard signs at the schools, local businesses and community events and gatherings. So I've partnered with Parks and Recreational for Prince George County Public Schools. I partnered with them, and I know last Friday, I believe, we had the Prince George movie night. So with them, I was able to hand out my flyers so we could have it set up at the concession stand since people are buying drinks, anything like that that can get us out there, whether it's a farmer's market, church walks, any kind of community events that we can spread awareness about our substitute program. Thank you, and I'll hand it back over to Ms. Jamie.
Thank you, Danielle. The important thing for us is we believe that there are a lot of people in the community that just don't even know that this is an opportunity for them. And so really immersing ourselves in the community, getting to know people and being part of these groups and associations is really going to help us spread the word that there are people that we need people. You can help your community. You can support these students. And so it's really finding those folks too who may not know that this is an opportunity for them. So on the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about the incentive programs. I've been asked a lot by our district, what are other districts doing to get substitutes to work, especially during the pandemic? What programs are they rolling out? So I work with all the VPs across the country and kind of pull together what I've got and what my districts are doing, as well as theirs, and put this together. So I just wanted to kind of review this with you. And this was really important because we lost, right out the gate, a third of our sub-pools. Another third that were sitting there waiting to see what's going to happen, and that left us with a third of our subs. And we can't operate on that realistically. So for us, it was like, well, we have to replace 2/3 of our sub-pool. So anything we can do to keep the ones that are working regularly was a huge push for us this year. So in some cases, our districts increased the substitute pay. They did it temporarily or for a period of time, and in some cases permanently. Just raise those rates to get the subs to where they need to be, and for all the reasons that are listed. Longevity pay was a big thing for us, and one of the things that we actually did roll out in Prince George, which was very successful, and you did an amazing job, was we had 36 building-based substitutes working throughout the district to support these schools. One of the things that was great about that is during that time was it really does minimize the number of people coming in and out of the building, that substitutes going to that same location every day, and they're able to fulfill the needs of that location wherever that may be on any particular day. So in some cases we did sign-on bonuses, we did just a bonus structure if they worked 30 days or longer in the assignment, they got a $100 bonus. And really, using critical pay that districts received, they were able to utilize those funds for these particular folks. So that was another thing that we were very successful in Prince George. Then we had the targeted incentives, and this was a kind of a combination between an ESS rollout as well as our district partners. So we would incentivize subs to work for longer periods of time. If they work 15 days in a month, they got $100. If they work 20 days, they got $150. Or we would target specific days, like if you work every Friday for 3 months, you're getting a bonus. Or we were just so many different ways that we could get creative to get the substitutes to work. And we frequently, and in Prince George, did do drawings, raffles, bonuses for our hard to fill days, for when we had professional development Fridays especially. We will roll out programs to be able to incentivize subs to work. We pay gas cards that pay for gas. And then the last is the floater position for the last minute. And basically, we wanted to incentivize substitutes, and this is mainly an ESS thing that we do throughout the year, every year. We know when our hard to fill months are, we know when those days are, we know flu season's coming, and so we roll out different incentive programs to help our subs, incentivize them to work. So those are things, some of these things we've utilized, and some things we'll continue to utilize as needed. I just wanted to share that information with the board. And then lastly, I just wanted to provide some statistics on our sub pool right now, just so you kind of know where we're at and what we're working on for the summer. So we currently have 168 actively working subs. As Union said, our target is 220, so we have a little bit of work to do this summer, but thankfully we have the summer to do that and dedicate our time specifically to that. So I have all the confidence in the world that we will achieve that goal. We actually deactivated almost 100 substitutes this school year who said they did not want to come back or for various reasons. But we've also hired 201 since our implementation this last fall. So we're gonna get our sub pool where we need to be, and feel 100% confident we'll get to that 220, and we will be in very good shape next school year. So thank you so much for allowing us to present, and we're open for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Board members, do you have any questions?
I'd just like to make one quick comment and thank them. One of the things that we did with the school board I guess a year or two ago, when we were struggling to have substitutes for bus drivers, is we started doing, planning for substitutes that we would need daily. And so that way we could plan that we would have people who would be missing. So we monitored our data and figured out how many we needed. We could plan that way. We did the same thing for our schools this year, which allowed those substitutes to be the same substitutes that were in the building every day, so that people weren't worried about coming into contact with people who were in and out. So we really appreciate the way that NENU and ESS worked with us to make that happen. And we steadily increased our numbers until we got to a place where we had people we could count on every day. And it was a wonderful, wonderful support for our team so that they could continue to go. I believe we ended the year with 9 at the high school. So yeah, it was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pennicup, and I just want to concur and thank the school board for taking the time to research and help us implement this. As Mrs. Marmley has indicated, it is an extension really of human resources and how we serve our students and staff. And it was your ingenuity and some of the creative thinking on Dr. Pennicup's part to do building-based subs that allowed us to be so successful. And the school building leaders and the district leadership team members who, in the beginning, did some really creative, problem solving to support absences in the building until we were really functional. So we thank everybody. It is a huge partnership with school leaders, the school board, and ESS. And given that we went up 5% with our fill rate during the pandemic, is really something to celebrate. So thank you all. Thank you, school board members, school leaders, and ESS.
Mr. Chair, I don't want to interrupt a pause there. On the incentive page, are the current incentives we have adequate, or is there a request forthcoming, or are we okay with the current incentives that we have?
So I think
we are actually, well, go ahead, sorry.
No, I was going to turn it over to you to address that.
Yeah, you guys, you pay better than a lot of neighboring districts. And so for us, the incentives are good. We roll them out as needed. But it's nice to be partnered with a district that actually pays their substitutes well. So we're good with the incentive programs. I think they work successfully. I think going into this next year, Dr. Estes and I and Dr. Pennicup can talk about some additional things that we may want to roll out as we see things happening. So we want to be sort of on that proactive side of it and just anticipate and kind of see what the trends are coming into the new year. And then we'll come up with a plan should we need to.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, this time we're going to move on to public comments. Ms. Kirk, do we have anybody signed up?
Yes. The first person is Marty Baird.
Okay. When you were called up, just when you get to the podium, each person that we have that wants to speak tonight, you state your name, your address, and you have 3 minutes. Okay? But it does not mean that we'll cut you right off at 3 minutes. If you're almost close, we'll give you another minute or so, but okay? Thank you, sir.
Yes, Marty Baird, 11643 Red Cedar Drive. Thank you all for being willing to serve the county. My wife Carla and myself have been living in the county for around 35 years. We had 2 older children come through, graduated in 03 and 06. Both were in the gifted programs, some or all of the eligible years, and we were very satisfied with the school systems in the county. Now we have a 13-year-old, same mother, same father, and he's on his way to Clements, and he is my main reason for being here. He's an almost straight A student. He received the Citizenship Award from his team of around 100 this year for displaying good character and good behavior. And I believe he's been an asset to the school so far. We have some possible concerns and would like to know where you as a board stand on these issues. If you would let me know, we would greatly appreciate it. The first one is critical race theory, or the other names given to it to hide its identity for ease of passage. I understand that that's happening in other places in other states. So where do you stand on that? The second one is the Virginia Department of Education recently laid out their agenda concerning sexual identity and all the related bathroom, locker room, sports pronouns, all those issues. And I believe that I read in their material that they were attempting to mandate all Virginia school systems to comply to this agenda. So how will that affect you guys, or will you comply? And then the last thing I have is, I think our county, and I know our principal at Moore, Mr. Robert Knowles, and his team did a great job of addressing the problem that we had last year of what to do with schools. I just thought it was fantastic. I saw the nightmares happen in other counties, and we just, Jackson has been going to school the whole time since last September. My question there is, how will you address the COVID, or whatever it'll be named this time, or the so-called related variants issues concerning masks, or the vaccines, or the injections, whatever you want to call them? And will there be separation of students, or possible isolation of students based on differing viewpoints on those two things and whatever else might come, masks and injections? And will there be things in either of these categories, these three categories I just brought up, passed down from the state or the governor that you will be forced to comply with and have no say in the final outcome? We would like to keep Jackson. We would like for him to continue in public education as our other children did. And any answers to these concerns will help us make a decision on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Kirk?
Scott Whittle.
Mr. Whittle, just remind you, you have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Scott Whittle. I'm at 1045 Drayton Court, South Prince George, 23805. So thanks for the opportunity. We have 2 children in the public school system. I went to Prince George. My sister went to Prince George. We, like Mr. Barrett said, we respect the county. We love the county. We would like to see it succeed in education. So back in late of the school year, probably early June, we had a situation at J.J. Moore that was brought to our attention as parents by our kids, and I believe it has to do with sort of controversial subject matter and age-appropriate instruction. This situation is not necessarily not necessarily coming to talk about this situation specifically, but more of the complications involved around the situation. So, long and short is there was an incident that involved controversial subject matter, and a lot of parents spoke up. It was a lot of emails and phone calls to the principal of J.J. Moore. I'll give them, I commend them for how they handled it. There was a letter written to the parents the very next morning, very, very cordially addressing the situation right up front. So the long and short is that controversial, per the policy of the county, controversial subject matter is supposed to be discussed with the administration for approval. And in this situation, it was not, and it was sort of pushed upon the kids at the teacher's discretion, and not just one teacher, but there was 2 teachers. And in my world, we do what's called a peer check. So, if we have an idea and we run it by a peer in a similar position, we'll run the idea and they'll give us their input, and then we'll make a professional decision from there. And I understand that one teacher that's not is no longer with the county, and I mean, that's probably a good thing, but there's another teacher out there, and I'm not sure what the accountability was in that regard. So I just think it's very important to protect our children against controversial subject matter and follow the policy set forth by the board and by the school system. Because there is a policy there, and I believe we should follow it. And then when the administrators are making the decision to either approve or deny the request for the controversial subject matter, I believe they need to think about the maturity and the age appropriateness of the subject matter. I got 44 seconds.
You're good.
I heard the ding. I'm sorry. Really, that's all that I have, and I appreciate the opportunity. The ding is a little bit confusing there. So thank you all. We would like to hear some input on that. Thank you.
Lee Hickson.
I'm gonna pass on my time. I'm in agreement. I have the same questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hickson.
Mary Jo Tyson.
I'm Mary Jo Tyson, 15307 Harvey Road. I could have been like Lee and said I agree with them, and I do agree with you guys, these gentlemen that spoke. And I want to say goodbye to Willie and all of them, and hello to the new people coming. I want to enter the school year with hope, because our children need it. They are, like Willie said, our first and our main concern. My heart's heavy because our children are going to be exposed to stuff that they should not be exposed to. And the only thing I can at this point is look at all of you and have the hope that y'all are going to do what's right by our children. This year, my daughter, thank God she graduated 2 years early, wanted to write about pro-life. She was told by a teacher that it was too sensitive, but then suggested to write about the horrific, brutal murder of George Floyd. To me, that's not right to be suggested when she can't talk about pro-life. And so I'm not going to stand for it. There's going to be parents that aren't going to stand for it. I'm here. I will be here every day, every morning with signs, whatever I got to do. Teachers had Black Lives flags in their classroom. They had LGBTQ flags in their classrooms. Our schools are meant to teach arithmetic, science, history, and English, period. So can we get back to that? And like these other gentlemen said, we want to know what y'all are planning on doing. I asked y'all to have an opportunity to meet with some of us, and then it was limited to just me and 3 people. We as parents have a right to know. House Bill 257, y'all don't have to report anything anymore. Y'all already were protecting our children. Now you don't even have to by law. The transgender policies, we want answers. Cultural resource teaching, CRT, you can name it any way you want to. We want answers. I'm going to leave here today with hope and you guys, because this is where the buck is going to stop, but we're not going away, okay? And God bless.
Thank you. Next.
Neil Jernigan.
Just a reminder.
All right. Neil Jernigan, address again?
Well, no, Ms. Burke, you had the address from earlier, right? Yeah, we're good. Thank you.
All right. I've kind of written some notes on my phone. I'm not the best public speaker. I get a little nervous, but I'm still going to go through it. Unfortunately, I have somewhat of a tough question, but sometimes to get to the hard truths, you have to answer the hard questions. When it comes to the safety and education of our children, all questions deserve to be asked. I have a dire concern for alleged potential secrecy we are hearing from our voters. Now, you do not have to answer this question as I've been told by the seeking counsel. You do have that right. Also have the right to ask it. What you cannot do is be misleading or untruthful, but you don't have to answer the question. My question is there any type of non-disclosure agreement permitting you from speaking to your citizens about truthful events that are taking place in our schools? And if you do choose not to answer it, why would you hide? He who has nothing to hide has nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Next, Ms. Burke.
I don't have any more that have signed up, but I think there's some others that want to.
Okay. At this time, we'll open the floor to open session. Public comment. If there's anybody else that would like to come forward, what we'll do is we'll come up one at a time, and you would state your name, address in 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Layla Myers, 8711 Second Court, Disputana 23842. I come to offer my comments to the comprehensive plan draft. On goal number 2, would you please tell parents what happened to Mr. Nays? He was brought in less than 2 years ago. It was a fanfare to lead the transportation department, the one you have one of the most troubled departments with. Your goal number 2 is to bring and retain highly qualified people. He was here for less than 2 years. Now we have a vacancy. On goal 3, objective 2, can we please not spend any more funds on technology that is short lifespan and it's not critical component, especially in elementary grade education. What the elementary school kids need is a hands-on 3-dimensional activities. But you are happy to spend money to drive kids into a computer dependency and addiction. And to the goal 2, objective 3.2, spelled out in your plan as culturally responsive teaching, CRT. The phrase equity emphasis is all over your comprehensive plan. I am not a native English speaker, so I have to look up the meaning of the words. Equity means fairness, impartiality, neutrality, uniformity, similarity. The new guidelines came out of the state DOE, have a criteria added to the evaluation of the teachers and principal superintendents. It's a criteria of evaluation on the cultural competency of teachers and staff. Nothing in the bill, the new law, says anything that the school shall train or educate the students in cultural competency. And I applaud that text drafter, whoever wrote it, because I expect you to not to confuse our children, to not to tell them to think less of themselves or think that they have a lesser ability to achieve, as one of the first new people you brought in spoke about. He believed that everybody has an ability to achieve anything. Do not try to guilt trip them to be responsible for things that happened without their involvement. Kids look for similarity of interests in other kids when they look for friends. They do not focus on their ethnicity. I do not want you looking at me or my children or any child through the lens of ethnicity. The desire to track my ethnicity ruined my family for 100 years. My grandmother survived ethnic cleansing twice in her life. I survived ethnic cleansing with the violent armed threats to my life. I don't want you talking to me about my ethnicity. I don't want you talking to anyone or looking at them through the lens of their ethnicity. I want you knowing it when you educate the children. So this culturally responsive teaching training will put another burden on the school, human resources, fiscal resources, but you'll be happy to receive money and spend it. It will likely result in the loss of more teachers from the frustration, which will blow the hole in your goal number 2. I wonder, how do you plan to collect the data to provide the statistic to develop the plan? Will you be sending surveys home to inquire about our private details, catalog it? I wonder how you will meet certain DOE guidelines, parameters, and I have to read the language before I ask a question. So this is Virginia DOE language. Use inclusive curriculum and instructional resources that represent all rings of culture, including gender, ethnicity, native language, sexuality, by connecting classroom curriculum and instruction to all learners. Please tell parents how you intend to discover kindergartners' gender and sexuality. And another criteria that the OAE put out in the guidelines for you to train your teachers to meet their requirements. Analysis, selection, integration of texts, materials, and classroom resources that reflect cultural inclusivity of all students, including ethnicity. Please tell parents how you expect a teacher with an average of 20 to 25 students in the class to know and integrate in the class material the cultural elements of at least 50 cultures or more, or ethnicities or more. Because just for my household, it will be more than 2 ethnicities per kid. I don't want you doing it. To translate this idea that comes down from the top, and you're following it, is to translate to tell the Prince George County that we need to build cultural heritage center for all ethnic groups represented to live in Prince George, not just Czech and Slovak. I have no problem with it. I enjoy the heritage center. It's not my heritage, but I enjoy it. And while we're on the subject of inclusivity of cultures, can we expect that you will be more inclusive to our Christian culture in science? Will you be allowing conversation about young Earth? Will you be in the science discussing that the color of the skin is decided by the amount of melanin in your DNA? By science, the only people who are white are albino, and they're really, really suffering in certain parts of the world because of darkness that people don't understand. Everybody else is a shade of brown. The only white people are albino. So I really, really want you to understand, we don't want you following top-down dictatorship. We are electing you as an independent school board. What's the point of electing you if it's just going to be handed down top-down? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ryan.
Good morning, Dr. Chairman of the board, members of the board. My name is William Steele. I live at County Line Road in District 10, Virginia. Dr. and Mr. Chairman, I hold a graduate degree in public administration. I served this country as a soldier for 30 some years. The Army has finally decided to let me to retire, and I spend a lot of time now looking at my tax dollars. Welcome to the people who are just entering retirement, folks. I expect that this board will answer the questions that are coming forward, because I and my family are now watching. I have the time now. I'm sick of paying the taxes that I pay to this school board and being under service. This county, as you know, is the 5th highest tax county in the 17 county Richmond district. You are elected by my tax dollars and by my votes, and therefore I expect answers. Now, I know you as a board don't respond at this particular time, but I assure you that I will be coming to you wanting the answers of what we're going to do with this crap called CRT. What is this board going to start doing about the transgender issue that does not belong in this school? And I can't double state any stronger that you are an elected board to serve us. We are not here to serve you. So I expect that this board will start giving answers, and I expect this board to start monitoring its spending. And Doctor, when I saw the slide up there about the tax, the stakeholder, and your slide about the survey you put out, well, folks, I may not have a child in the school. Thank goodness my child graduated from this school in the year 2006 as well. But I am a stakeholder because I pay taxes. Do not eliminate me from surveys like this. And I'd like to know, why wasn't I informed about this survey? I am a stakeholder in this school board, even though I don't have a child here. I've paid for 29 years in this county. I expect better from this board. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Cynthia Hasley, 12707 Chester Drive, Disputana, Virginia. I'm entering my 26th year of teaching at Prince George High School. I would like you to consider, and no one seems to ever think of this, when we're talking about things like critical race theory or transgender, why are you not consulting the professionals that you have hired that are in the classroom? I'm a history teacher. One of the most important things is research and validity of whose word you're taking on this information. I mean, I just, for the heck of it, went on the computer and typed in critical race theory. I couldn't find one legitimate resource. It's people just spouting words, but they don't have any kind of support as far as research or, that's what historians do, they research. I'm not finding anything. It's all social media. And so I wasn't able to even get a correct definition of exactly what that was based on some kind of academic research. So to have to try to make that decision, I welcome you guys. You guys could go back to my, we record at Google Classroom. Go look at my history lessons. From day one, we cover African American history, women's history, Native American history, besides regular white man's history. From the first week of school, I do this. When I first started teaching here 25 years ago, I had graduated from William & Mary, went to a teaching assistantship at VCU, got my master's degree in history, first woman at VCU to get a master's degree in history, first of 2 students ever to get, there was a new program. And I had my credentials on teaching American slavery. But the school board at that point, I put in for a elective when we went to block scheduling. Remember way back when we first went to block scheduling. I put in for a semester-long American slavery course, a year-long Black history course, and a semester-long women's history course, got knocked down all 3 times. Now, why? This is the wrong color. Okay, the fellow English teacher, she put in for a Black lit course, she got hers. Okay, do you remember Jessica Bradley? Yeah, she's still teaching, excellent teacher. But she was Black. So there's discrimination on both sides with these kinds of issues. And so it would really be helpful if you guys actually, conferred with some of us teachers. Trust that you have hired professionals that know what we're doing and know how to go about things and aren't emotionally, off kilter. So that's all I want to say is, please make this part of the decision making again, because we don't feel like we are. And we've got a lot to go through this year. Hopefully it's all positive.
Is there anyone else?
Hello, I am Jennifer Matthews, 10105 Southampton Road, Virginia. I am a 97 graduate from George High School.
Jennifer, can you speak up just a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
I am a 1997 graduate from George High School. I was placed in the PACE program in junior high, all the way through high school. I had 2 small children that were actually recognized much sooner than I was for the gifted programs. I am concerned, as everyone in this room is, about my children's future. What they are being taught, how they are being forced to think. I was raised by a wonderful woman who taught me to not judge anyone who looks, acts, speaks differently than me. And I have instilled that onto my children daily. So the fact that they come home and ask me why is it wrong that they are the same color as all the bad people on the news, on TV? That is heart-wrenching, heart-wrenching. And there are many people sitting out here that know me very well and my children. And they can all tell you with a straight face, we are full of love for every color, creed, ethnicity, anything out there. So I would like to know when you are going to make the determination for this critical race theory, transgender bathrooms. I would like to know when that is going to happen, because I would like to know if my children will also be a graduate with honors at Prince George High School. Because if not, they will not be. And that's very, very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. So, to look at me, you would think that I am just a normal little white country girl. But all of us with white skin, do we really know what composes our white skin? No. I found I have Vulcan I have Irish were slaves once upon a time. So many ethnicities across the board have been enslaved and are still not, being treated fairly today. So many. I would like for you to think of the children, all these poor innocent children that are being subjected to hatred right now. We have been preaching unity and diversity. So why are we going to send our children to school to be labeled, to choose what side of the fence they're going to be on? They're children that hopefully will grow up to be respectable people. But if you have them at this age, making determinations on what side that they choose to be on, think about what that's going to do for them in the future. Think about where Prince George County will go in the future. The choice is yours. But I did see a bunch of vacancies with just a few minutes ago. How many more student vacancies are you willing to take on? You're not going to worry about your teacher vacancies. Because all the students, like most of the students this past school year, are being sent to private schools. So I need to know if very soon, because I need to plan for my children's future. Will they continue to stay in Prince George County? Or will I put them in private school?
Thank you.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jason Shamara. I live at 22150 Rwani Road, Carson, Virginia. Thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to speak this evening, public forum. Switch gears just a little bit, although I'm in agreement with all the parents and citizens today on the issues involving CRT and transgender issues as well. So just note that I'm in agreement with that as well. Today, I wanted to kind of discuss a personal matter that's happened to my family. I have two teenage daughters that go to school. And specifically, I understand there was some new, or I'm not exactly sure how new it is, but new legislation that's come down that says that it's no longer a requirement for schools to report incidents of sexual harassment to the police or things like that. I'd like to know what your stance is on that, involving students in sexual harassment or something that could be of a criminal nature. And secondly, and specifically, my daughter was the victim of sexual harassment on two separate occasions. Once in JEJ schools and once in Clements, and it was by the same student. And what I'm here to say is, what I was finding out through this is that you guys came down with a new Title IX policy, which I read extensively and had to figure out what I needed to do to keep my daughter safe. And to be honest with you, the process of going through that with the principal when I filed a complaint was a nightmare. It was hard for me. I had to take time off of work to continue to come in, to clarify various things, and I had to come in and fight. And I mean fight for my daughter and her rights. And the fact that she was a victim of sexual abuse. And the way the title is written, it's written in favor of the accused more so than it is the victims. And it was everything that I could do to have the student removed from the class during the investigation alone. They wanted to keep the child in there and have no contact. In my world, the type of work that I do, you don't leave an abuser with the victim. And that was their temporary solution to that. So the policy is inadequate, in my opinion. And I pretty much had to threaten to go get a protective order against the child before they would remove him from the class, so my daughter didn't have to be subjected to him any longer. And that was after the second incident. So I did speak with the school administrators on both of these occasions, and what it seems to me is that I know these are probably isolated incidents that don't happen all the time, but it doesn't seem there's very many safeguards in place for our children. And the amount of fighting that I had to do just to keep my daughter safe, I shouldn't have to do that as a parent. I trust you guys and school officials to keep our children safe. I mean, you're an extension of me when I'm not here. And again, I don't know if it's how the policy's applied, if it's per administrator or whatever, but the way it currently is, I don't think it's adequate to keep our children safe, and a parent shouldn't have to come in here and make threats for the safety of their children because you're more worried about the suspect, so to speak, their rights and how they feel, and, had no really consideration for the victims in this case. So I guess the question is do you plan on addressing those issues? And are there any other safeguards that we can put in place so it doesn't continue to happen? Because I've had this happen twice to my daughter by the same student. It's not going to happen a third time. I don't know what we have to do to get teachers on board, pass these things along from school to school. The schools didn't seem to have any communication with one another, and they put the student in the same classroom with her again in a different school. And that's a breakdown in communication. And that's, you're failing me. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward, ma'am? Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Isis Costa. I live at 9740 Robin Court, Bisbee-Tanton, Virginia, 23842. I've just been sitting here listening. I've been reading up on CRT, transgenderism, the intersectionality, all those topics for probably about a year and a half now. But it's been academically to study it and try to understand it. But after listening to these parents, just what they're saying, I have 2 small girls. After listening to the gentleman before, it scares me that there might not be any safeguards for my children as they grow up. I don't think anything is going to happen in elementary school, which they're in right now, but I am concerned as you grow up, puberty happens, and there is a concern about their safety. So I wanted to say something about that if you would address that, that would be awesome. And the second thing is in relation to the CRT as well. After listening, this is really difficult because me and my husband, I'm a veteran, he's a retiree in the Army. We met in Fort Riley, Kansas after deployment to Iraq. He is white and I am black, technically speaking on paper. But just like the whole ethnic thing, I could have something in my DNA, he could have something in his, it's whatever. But at the end of the day, you put it down, he's white, I'm black. So my daughters are mixed. And it would break my heart for them to have to come home someday and make a choice on who's the victim and who's the oppressor. Because we love them. We love them and we love each other. We have been rocking this relationship for 16 years. Through 4 deployments, I have been by my husband's side. We lost our first child. We came back, had them 2. We have suffered enough. The last thing that I ever want to do is to crush everything that I've actually fought for. Everything that my husband has fought for. That would devastate me. And for my children to have to turn to one of us and hate one of us and love the other. And as a Christian woman, I will not stand for it. I will pull my children out of the public school system and I will educate them myself. And I do not want to do that. We retired here. It's a great community. When we started this whole retirement life, we were like, we hit the jackpot. And I want to continue in it. And I appreciate your time and hope you really consider this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come forward at this time during public comment? All right. If there is no one else that would like to come forward at this time, we will close the section on public comment.
I think this is a just a 15-minute break. Do you need a motion for this? Request to
Good. Need a motion.
Mr. Chair, in light of all the public comment and the questions asked of us, I know it's not our normal process to answer questions directly, but there's been great comments and great participation, and we're grateful for that. And in light of that, I think it would be nice to maybe go and discuss things in a closed session specific to this, this discussion that we've had on critical race theory, transgender policy, and overall safety of our children. So I would move that we go into closed session specifically to speak, to discuss public safety and specific student matters pursuant to Virginia Code 2.23711 A2 and A19.
I have a motion by Mr. Johnson.
I second motion, Mr. Chairman.
I have a second by Mr. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes, the board stands in closed session. We will be back out. Not sure how long it'll be, but we will be back out to continue with the school board business. Thank you.
Motion that we come back into open session.
Motion by Ms. Taylor,
I second.
second by Ms. Andrews. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor? Yes. Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we add an agenda item on action items and ask that to be moved up to the present place in the agenda on critical race theory. And I believe this has to have a 2/3 vote to add an agenda item, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Mr. Johnson,
I second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
second by Mr. Smith. Roll call, please, to add this.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Chair, I would move that Prince George County not implement critical race theory.
Mr. Johnson has the motion.
Yes.
Mr. Smith has the second. Can I get roll call, please?
I'd like discussion.
Oh, sorry, discussion.
Mr. Chair, and I did make it part of the motion, but there are things within legislation that has been passed that requires teachers to be trained. It requires SOLs to be requirements in SOLs, which would require teaching. I would ask that, as not part of this motion, but as a formal request, that we ask Dr. Pincuff and her team to come back to our next meeting in about 2 weeks with all the options for us to oppose those other, I hate to say hidden, but, you know, the legislation that's currently there that we're not in favor.
You good? Okay. All right, so I have any other discussion from board members? Ms. Andrews? Got any discussion?
Oh, no, I don't have anything. I'm sorry. I'm writing.
All right, sorry. Mr. Smith?
Folks, it is important that we stay on top of this. For a lot
Your
of us,
mic, Mr. Smith. There you go.
thank you. Sometimes we can't see if the light's on. It is important that all of us stay on top of this. It's important for our children, all of us to understand, because sooner or later, we're gonna be talking to our children. I know some of you all got some very small children starting to move through. And if it gets away from, I never in a million years thought that we would be addressing topics like this in a school or school board meeting. I never thought 45 years ago when I was teaching school, I'd ever have a thought like these. So it's important.
I agree. I'm definitely opposed to the teaching of critical race theory. I think all of us are equal and that we should be using our God-given talents to achieve as much as we possibly can and to bring other people up who are less fortunate than us. I don't think it matters the color of your skin. I am opposed to this. I think we need to focus on reading, writing, arithmetic and bring our scores back up so we can become competitive in the global world like we should and not focus on things like this.
And my discussion is it's a hot topic, not only here in Prince George, but all over the state of Virginia. You've all seen Loudoun County. You've all heard the news. This board is committed to the children of Prince George County and what's best for the children of Prince George County. And some of the things that have come down through legislation are not what's best for the children of Prince George County. So, board members, I thank you for your stance in this matter. Parents, I appreciate you coming out this evening and speaking up for your children. You're the only advocate for your children. If you don't stand up for your child and speak, then nobody else is. And we needed to hear from you. And we've heard from you. And I'm sure that there's another side of the coin to this. okay? But this board is committed to doing what's right for children and making sure that the children are treated how they deserve to be treated, regardless of their skin color, where they're from, what kind of background they have. It doesn't matter. That's the way I was raised, and that's the way we're going to keep it, as far as I'm concerned. I'm only one person of 5 people sitting up here. So again, thank you for coming out. We appreciate it. Ms. Andrews, you had something?
I just wanted to say I agree with the board also. Sorry, I was taking notes, writing everything down so we'd be ready in August, but I agree also that color of your skin does not matter. And it shouldn't be treated as it does. I grew up here. I was from the high school too, or through Prince George all the way through. And it never mattered when I was in school. So it shouldn't matter now. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will move into this. Oh, sorry. Can I get a motion? I have the motion. Roll call, please.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. Now we can move. Now we can move into the information items in the superintendent's report.
Thank you.
Yeah, what about transgender?
Yeah, let's not, I hope we'll finish it.
I think that as part of our discussion with, I spoke to the hidden things that have been in the legislation. That includes the transgender. We're asking her to bring back what our options are with transgender as well. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear earlier, so I apologize. Thank you for mentioning that. Sorry, Mr. Chair, I hope I had permission to speak.
So basically, August the 2nd, we will have a presentation from Dr. Pennycup on the transgender items. So you're more than welcome to come back that night and hear from our superintendent on where we're going from there.
And the
other legislation that is coming down to us. Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so
thank y'all.
Thank you. So
Whoever mentioned that, I'm glad I could hear.
So now I think we can move to the superintendent's report.
All right. And I'm just going to add to that just a little by sharing what my view as the superintendent of Prince George School is on what our efforts should be focused on in this area. Our efforts in the school division are focused on personalized learning through the tiered system of supports to ensure that all of our children are getting the very best educational foundation that they can have for their futures. Our district operates on a belief that a strong educational foundation where the children learn to become effective communicators, critical thinkers, contributing members of collaborative work groups, and positive citizens of their school and local community is the very best preparation that we can provide for our children so they have many choices available to choose from as they transition out of K-12 education and into the world. We believe that a strong educational foundation is the greatest equalizer for opportunities later. Thank you. A couple things that I'd like to share off the superintendent's report tonight. We have trainings that our school board is working to earn a School Board of Distinction Award. And to do that, we participate in various trainings and we have opportunities for them to serve in leadership roles. And, you know, there are some very tough things, tough questions that are asked that really, you know, you really can't legislate how you treat people. You know, we're going to be good to all people and we're going to treat people well and we're going to take care of everyone. That's important to all of us. And we're glad that our school board members have a voice at the state level. And it may not go their way, but they can at least share their thoughts, and they do. They're active participants, and we're very thankful for that. We have a couple of conferences coming up. One is the VSBA Conference on Education that some of them are going to participate in, and the VSBA Legislative Advocacy Conference, which is extremely important to us with all that's going on in our world. I'd like to share that our back to school fair is going to be back this year. And on August 7th, we will have a drive-through back to school fair where our children get the backpacks that they used to get at Scott Park. So we hope that after this fall, we're able to return to Scott Park for the events that we used to have. But we thank Becky Kirk and the team for their leadership in helping organize the donations and pack the backpacks and collect and plan for that event. So thank you, Ms. Kirk. Tonight, I would also like to thank our Summer Academy teachers, paraeducators, and administrators for their efforts. After this year, it's been a tough year. You know, it has been hard on everyone, whether you chose to educate your children at home or you sent them to us. And we care very much to do what's right by your children and by our teachers. And we're thankful that we had teachers when we had students who struggled, who said, you know what, I'm tired, but I'll come back and I'll help with the ones who need some extra help. We're proud of that. So I want to be sure that we acknowledge that, because I know that they're worn out, and we thank them for giving more of themselves and caring about our children. So I think for me, when we talk about the spirit of Prince George, it's a spirit of trying to do what's right and best for our children. So I am very thankful to be part of this community and of families who care to do the very best we can for the children that we are blessed to have with us. So thank you, and that ends my comment.
Thank you, Dr. Pennycup. We're going to move into school board member comment. So I'm going to start with Mr. Smith.
Gee, thanks.
At the request of Ms. Taylor.
I think Ms. Taylor should go first. I was listening to all of you and taking notes as best I could when you were discussing things earlier. And I made some comments already about I never in the world thought when I got out of college as an educator that I would ever have to face anything like this as a school decision for what kids get taught. You know, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Since then, I've cultivated that just a little bit. It's science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Whoever thought we'd had to discuss critical race theory or who needs to go to transgender items. You know, it was very simple when we were kids. It just bothers me that dollar pieces to think about how in the world have we let people get so diverse in thinking. It's a wonderful thing to think. You know, somebody else earlier said something about the way we get our kids thinking. There's nothing wrong with having them thinking about good stuff. On the other hand, debating the skin color of my very best friend when I was a small kid, I wouldn't dare. I trust him with my life. You know, he's a black guy. He's probably 200 pounds heavier than me and about 6'9". But I would. He was my number one buddy when I was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old. I would never enter in a conversation with him about white, black, never. Who contributes most to slavery and things like that? In eastern North Carolina, there were more black people that had slaves than there were white people. There was one large farm or plantation in our entire county that had slaves on. There was 6. And when they were turned loose or made free, I understand that they even had indentured slaves or indentured people that came over from the other countries that worked for them. So, I mean, slavery is in the world. This is not something to be ducked around. It's something to be understood as part of a culture. I'm on my soapbox. I'm sorry. I'm done. You're next.
So again, just to reiterate, I think it's really challenging that our children have to deal with such contentious topics such as critical race theory and transgender at their young age. There's so many things going on. They're going through changes in life themselves, and to have to deal with such subjects and their safety, I think is not something they should have to worry about. I am opposed to the critical race. I don't care your sexual orientation. I just want to keep our children safe. I want them to have privacy when they are in the bathroom, in the locker room. And I think we should have to do whatever we possibly can to provide that. This world's scary enough, and they're going to deal with these things when they get older. You know, we can train them now to understand and to be cautious and, you know, compassionate with for other people. But you know, just talking to my son last night, he's like, oh my gosh, you know, he graduates in December. He goes, oh, I'm gonna have to start paying bills then. I was like, yeah, I'm excited about that. But you know, they grow up so fast. So they're gonna deal with these things soon enough. And I think we should hold and protect our children as long as possible. And I'm gonna do everything I can to help protect your children. Thank you.
I want to congratulate the retirees and let you know that you will be missed. Hope you enjoy your retirement. I want to welcome the new staff to the schools. I also agree with Sherry and Cecil on what they discussed. I appreciate the parents coming out and voicing their concerns tonight and letting us know how they feel about things. As I've told the residents I've talked to, I'm from Prince George County. I grew up here. I've been here most of my life. Prince George schools matter to me. I used to tell people my blood was green and gold because that's how, I mean, I really care about the schools. And I think if you give us a chance, we'll do what's right. And we're not trying to hide things. I know that's what some people think, but that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get the information we have to get to make the decisions we have to make. But thank you all for coming out tonight. We greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And I too want to congratulate those and wish happy retirement to those who are left here. And some have already started, and for the new people and new places. And we look forward to your wonderful efforts, and thank you for joining our team. You know, I was reflecting on, I moved to Prince George County when I was 11 years old. I've always been proud of this county. I know many of you, our children have played sports together and done different things. And as I heard you talk, I guess when I think of Prince George County, I think of my friends, my friends in high school, my friends throughout the year. I never considered what the shade of their skin was or where they came from. And when I reflect back on it, it just didn't matter. And, I think that's one of the great things here in Prince George, the diversity we have. And I think it came from Fort Lee. I can remember friends that came from Germany and talked about the experience they had with the German people. And some came from Korea and the experiences they had there. And all over the country, whether it was Texas, that's like a nation in and of itself, and other areas. And what experience, I didn't go to all those places, but I experienced that through them. And I learned about different cultures, and I searched. I had to do some soul searching with some of my children and relationships they had. I searched this book. I think it's called the Bible. It's one of the most read books, and in there I looked for race. And the only race I can find is the human race. And the shades of our skins, has been told, is different, but the color of our blood is the same. And it isn't green and gold as much as we try, but it is the same. And I think that's what unites us. And the only policy I'm ever going to support in this position is policies that unite our county. And if they divide our children or divide us, I'm not willing to support that and won't support it. And I'll fight against it. The hardest thing right now is we're all in agreement. Every one of you who came up, I hear you. We're in agreement that we're opposing what's going on. But now we gotta find the best path to oppose it. You know, there's some things that are being held until after the election. They're not enforcing some of the license and the changes in SOL until after the election. That's just not acceptable. So we're gonna look at the options that we can have to oppose those things. But ultimately, you know, there's no substitute for what we teach our own children. And there's no substitute for the training and teaching that we can give in the home. And for the children that don't have that opportunity, I hope that we have people of faith in the school that teach truth. And that truth, real truth, only comes from one source, and I know that. And I hope that's the truth that enlightens us all. And sometimes, you know, we have different shades of skin because we're growing and developing in this life to learn to accept and love all. And I hope we can show that love to everyone, is my hope. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. To the retirees, to that are leaving, Mr. Elliott, thank you. To the other retirees, thank you. To the new faces that are coming on, welcome to Prince George. This is a family. This is a home. This is our home. This is now your home, and we have to protect it. To the graduates that left here, there was three great days, three great ceremonies for graduates who have had 2 years of dismay in their life. So in 2020, the graduates had to go to the gym on 5 days. In 2021, the graduates had to go through across the stage on the field at 3 separate ceremonies. And now our children are fighting an uphill battle on something that they have no control over again. Our children in this country have suffered enough. It is time to let them be children. It is time to let them learn life lessons the right way. And if there are any of the legislators that are listening to the people who have children in this state, those are the people they need to be listened to, not to the people that are above them, pushing the items down their throat for them to vote for. Listen to you people. So that's what I ask you to do. Now, Dr. Pennycuff's going to bring you on August the 2nd a presentation on two difficult items. But outside of that, when you hear those presentations, that goes back to you and to us to talk to the state legislatures. You need to find out who they are. You need to get in their ear. You need to pick up the phone and call them. You need to email. Speaking of email, my email's been broke. So if anybody tried to email me, I apologize that I haven't got back to you, okay? So that's where we're at with this. We can sit up here and vote no to everything that they send us. But at the end of the day, you need to get to them, whether they want to listen or not. Okay? Because that's where it starts. It trickles down to us. And yes, at the end of the day, we're here to protect your children, and we're going to do everything we can to protect the 6,000 students that we have in this school system. Because that's what we, as somebody said earlier, that's what we were elected to do. So on November the 2nd, when you have your opportunity to go to the ballot box, and those people are on that ballot, that's what you need to think about. Because those are the people that are sending the message that we have to listen to, and that we have to read, and we have to look into. There's not a board member up here that I can assure you has not looked into what has been spoken about tonight. There's not a lady to my left that has not looked into anything and everything that you have spoken about tonight. I can assure you. Her staff and her people care, and they're looking after your children in the best way possible. If you have a problem, pick up the phone and call her. Pick up the phone and call Mr. Barnes. Pick up the phone and call Mr. Manos. Pick up the phone and call Mr. Chandler. I'd be glad to sit down and talk to you about any issue you have. We care. And I know sometimes it comes across that, you know, it may look like, well, you're just doing what you're told. Well, at some point we have to. But it's not because we don't care, because we do. We all have big hearts. We all have kids. I have 2 kids in this school system. So believe me when I tell you that this board cares. And just one last thing for my work side hat for a minute. I'd like to thank the school system for their help and willingness with the school, with the World Series that's coming up. Mr. Rhodes and your staff, Mr. Weston, helping us with the helmets, Dr. Pennycup and the school system. Mr. Knowles is not here. We're down at J.J. Moore. That will start on the 23rd of July with opening ceremonies at the football stadium, and the games will start on the 24th. Both the Prince George teams play at 4 o'clock on the 24th at J.J. Moore Middle School. There's teams as far as Texas and as far as Florida come to the state of Virginia. So it's everything from the South, basically. But again, thank you for coming tonight. We greatly appreciate hearing from you. I will commend each of you for handling yourself very dignified when you came to speak to us, because it's a hot topic and it could have gotten out of hand very easily, but not here in this county, because we have dignified people that know how to speak and know how to approach adults, and that's what we are as adults, to protect your children. Thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Board members, if you have no changes or I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Motion by Ms. Taylor. I second. Second by Mr. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. Now the action items. Have a uniform service and related supplies renewal. Mr. Rhodes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Pennycup, Mr. Barnes, thank you for this time. Just to let you know, the bid in front of you is our single bid that we received this year. We did go back and look at the last bids we had 3 years ago, and this bid is 95% cheaper than the one we received 3 years ago. So we have a really good bid in front of us. So we'd like to present this bid for you to go forward with.
Okay. Board members, you have a bid in front of you. Is there any questions from Mr. Rhodes? There are no questions. If I can entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Smith.
Second.
Second by Mr. Johnson. Roll call, please.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
Sir.
Next up is the next item up is a request for approval for supplementary appropriation to the 2021-22 Grant Fund 0510 budget. Ms. Barnes.
Good evening again, Mr. Ely. Prince George County Public Schools has received an approval for a grant that falls under the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund number 2 to be used for the extended school year and additional learning opportunities. The combined award was in the amount of $676,163.68. So we're requesting your approval to make a formal request for a supplemental appropriation from the Board of Supervisors into the fiscal year 22 federal grant fund.
You heard from Ms. Barnes. Are there any questions from Ms. Barnes? If there are no questions, I'd like to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the supplemental appropriation request to the Board of Supervisors.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
Second.
second by Mr. Johnson. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. An appointment of superintendent as special agent for public law 89-10 and other federal projects. Dr. Pennycuff, you have the next three.
Thank you. Federal law requires the school board appoint in a regular meeting the superintendent to act as special agent for public law 89-10. This gives the superintendent the authority to sign off on federal grants and projects, including but not limited to the impact aid application. Recommendation tonight is to appoint and authorize me as the special agent for public law 89-10.
You've heard the motion from Dr. Pennycuff. You've heard the recommendation, Dr. Pennycuff. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, need a motion?
I make a motion that we appoint Dr. Pennycuff.
Motion by Ms. Taylor. Second. Second by Mr. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes, motion passes. VSBA Policy Service Agreement.
VSBA Policy Services Agreement will expire July 31st, 2021. A new one-year contract has been submitted to continue with these services. The agreement is renewable for an additional one-year term at the original contract fee. Annual installments are $3,000 each year and are due on or before August 1st of each year. We recommend the approval of one-year VSBA Policy Services subscription contract from August the 1st through July 31st.
I move that we approve the one-year policy service subscription contract.
Motion by Mr. Johnson.
A second.
Second by Ms. Andrews. Any discussion?
That's the deal, $3,000 a year.
It is.
Roll.
Payment for a technical writer.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes. I have a VSBA Media Honor Roll, Dr. Pennycuff.
The school board may determine if they want to recognize a reporter from print, radio, or television who deserves media honor roll recognition. Criteria for the honor rolls include makes an effort to get to know the superintendent and the board chairman, understands the division's mission and goals, reports school news in a manner that is fair, accurate, and balanced, gives a high-profile position to good news about schools, regularly visits the schools and attend board meetings, maintains a policy of no surprises by sharing information with school representatives. The school board may nominate up to 3 media representatives. Tonight, I recommend that Michael Campbell be nominated as our media honor roll recognition. And the school board may also add others if they would like to nominate others. A resolution must be passed by the school board and nomination forms submitted to the VSBA before August 23rd. I would like to say that since Mr. Campbell came on board, he has been a great resource to us to be able to share information and tell our story. So you probably noticed that our Facebook website and our division website and all of our information that we're able to get out is much greater since he joined us, and we are very thankful for that.
I need a motion for VSBA Media Honor Roll.
I move that we nominate Michael Campbell to the media, not only nominate, but with gratitude and appreciation for the media honor roll.
I second that.
Second by Ms. Taylor. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes, Mr. Campbell, thank you very much. You've always been an advocate for Prince George County Schools, even when you were reporting news. We got fair, and we certainly appreciate it. And now we even more appreciate you with everything you do with us. Thank you. Next up is a request for approval for supplemental appropriation to the 2021-22 grant. Oh, excuse me, BPSA Technology Fund Reimbursement Resolution, Ms. Barnes. Sorry, Ms. Barnes.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Ely. The Prince George School Division is scheduled to receive $432,800 in state technology funds for fiscal year '22, with a required local match of $86,560. And these funds are to be used for specific technology purchases that relate to the standards of learning testing. The funding is received from the Virginia Public School Authority in the spring by the state, and the division will submit a request for reimbursement. The school board is required each year to adopt the attached resolution, acknowledging that the funds are available and that the qualified purchases will be made, much like it does when applying for federal grants.
You've heard the recommendation from Ms. Barnes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Johnson,
A second.
second by Ms. Andrews. Roll call, please.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Taylor,
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Ely.
Yes. Now the request for approval for supplemental appropriation, the 2021-22 grant 0510 budget for IDA flow-through grants. Monique Barnes. Ms. Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Ely. Prince George County Public Schools has received a superintendent's memo advising the division that we will receive an additional federal funding through the American Rescue Plan Act for the IDEA Part B flow-through 611 and 619 grants for special education and preschool special education in the amounts of $303,086.04 and $22,047 respectively. We're requesting your approval to allow the school division to ask the Board of Supervisors for a supplemental appropriation in the aggregate amount of $325,133.04 into the federal grant fund fiscal year '22 budget.
Heard the recommendation from Ms. Barnes.
So moved.
Second.
There you go. Roll call, please.
Ms. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Ely.
Yes. Ms. Barnes.
Thank you. Okay, regarding the supplemental appropriations, rolling our purchase orders. As you know, each year we try to close all of our purchase orders by June 30th. However, sometimes there are items that are not received or projects that were not completed by that date. So we're working on the replacement of the domestic and fire water tanks for North and Harrison Elementary Schools, but the vendor encountered weather issues at its earlier jobs that have backed up all of its successive jobs. We're also working on replacing the generator at the high school, but are awaiting parts. And the generator project was funded primarily by the county CIP, but $29,013.32 was needed from the regular fund to complete the project. We're also working on the HVAC system at the high school, but as you know, we had to wait till school let out before completing the project, most of the project. Finally, we're working with Mosley Architects to finalize the documents for the chiller replacement at Envy Clements. And all this being said, we're requesting that we ask the Board of Supervisors to allow the school division to roll the purchase orders and the fund balance to cover them from fiscal year '21 to fiscal year '22 as a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $354,367.32 into Fund 500, the regular operating fund. And these expenditures are funded by our fiscal '21 fund balance.
You've heard from Ms. Barnes.
I make a motion we accept.
Motion by Ms. Taylor,
I second the motion.
second by Mr. Smith. Roll call, please.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews.
Yes.
Ms. Taylor,
Yes.
Mr. Ely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to discussion items for the 2022 through 27 comprehensive plan. Ms. Betsy Overcamp Smith.
And as Ms. Overcamp Smith comes up, there was something that I would like to go ahead and address. One of the things that has come up a lot in the discussion around some of the issues that we've been talking about are the words cultural competence and educational equity. So I wanted to share with you what is meant by the school division in terms of equity. And you'll see it in our comprehensive plan. So when the state puts out Virginia Department of Education guidance, we review it and we look at the parts that we believe are right for Prince George County Public Schools. That is balanced with what's required by law and what's required, and what we as a school division believe is the right thing to do for children. So for us, equity means eliminating the predictability of student outcomes based on race, gender, zip code, ability, socioeconomic status, or languages spoken at home. So what that means is you shouldn't be able to predict how a student is going to do based on any of those things. So for us, it also means that when a student isn't doing well, it doesn't matter to us what those things are. We're going to go back and we're going to reteach them, and we're going to reteach them and reteach them until they get it. And for the ones who already got it or knew it before we got to them, then our efforts are on the other side. How do we extend their learning so that they have a broader opportunity while they're with us too? So for us, equity means in outcomes, you're not going to be able to say that all of the Black children achieved at a lower rate. All of the white children achieved at a lower rate. It's going to be looking at every child, child by child, and saying, if you're not learning, we're going to help you, and you're going to come and get extra support. So for us, that's what equity means. So when you see that, I wanted to be sure that you have that. And that is in the Virginia Department of Education's equity document. Like I shared with you, we pick and choose the things that we believe that are right for us. And here we have a committee. I think we had about 32 people on our committee that worked on the different pieces of our comprehensive plan. They worked for an entire year coming up with a plan that would guide our division for the next 5 years. We're very proud of where we are today, and we're happy to talk about any pieces that anyone is uncomfortable with. I knew some of you wrote to me in advance, and I held answering your questions because I think sometimes it can get lost in transition and messages can get carried. And we wanted to be sure that we had the opportunity tonight before we responded so that nothing was lost in translation. So Ms. Overcamp-Smith, if you would go ahead.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Pennycuff, and Mr. Barnes, good evening. I'm here to give you an update on the comprehensive plan for 22-27. We did present at your June meeting, and since then, the steering committee met and made suggestions for changes to both the objectives and the strategies. The committee and division leadership then took a look at tasks and measures and made significant changes there as well. Since these conversations resulted in changes from what was presented to you in June, we brought this forth for you to discuss again, just so you would see all of the changes and be able to make an informed decision. You have received all of the plan, including the goals, objectives, strategies, tasks, and measures, and those were posted on the division website earlier this week. What hasn't changed are the goals and the mission and the vision statements. So those all remain the same. We still have 4 goal areas, and we have the same mission and vision statements. What have changed are within each goal. A number of the objectives have been wordsmithed. We also have changed a number of strategies. This evening, we've just posted the objectives for you on this presentation to give you an opportunity to ask any specific questions related to goals or objectives. So as you know, goal 1 is academic growth and engagement. We still have 7 objectives because this is the most important area of what the school division does. So we wanted to make sure that every aspect would remain in the plan and showed the importance of academic achievement just by this sheer number of objectives. Are there any questions based on what you've received about goal 1? Seeing none. Goal 2, again, stayed as dedicated and connected staff. In this area, we took a number of the strategies and combined them. And so now we have 3 objectives and far fewer strategies in this area. However, we believe it still covers all of the important information related to dedicated and connected staff. Any questions related to goal 2? In goal 3, we also, again, took a look at this and significantly streamlined the areas within the plan. We now have 2 objectives, and then strategies, tasks, and measures were all incorporated into those 2 objectives. Any questions? And finally, goal 4, caring, culture, and climate. We also combined some of the objectives and strategies. We now have 4 objectives in this area. Again, we feel like everything that was combined is covered and is still an integral part of this plan. Those are the 4 goals. Next, we have any revisions or additions based on your input. Then the revised draft, the final draft, we hope, will be presented to you in August at your August 2nd meeting, and hope that will be approved. And then we will make it all pretty and make sure that it's out to the community and to the staff, and so that everybody has in front of them the vision, the mission, and is very clear about the goals for the school division for the next 22 to 27. Any question?
I have one question.
Yes.
And I know the answer, but the process that we've been through, and I've been to many meetings, how many town hall meetings did we hold?
We held 3 town hall meetings.
And during those town hall meetings, we broadcasted, the
We did.
community had opportunity to offer comments, guidance, direction.
Yes. We also had a survey out, and it was open for all community members. We publicized it significantly through, Mr. Campbell did a number of active efforts to make sure that that was publicized. And we had a significant number of community, staff, and parents who participated in that survey.
And at this time, if anyone wanted to have the input at this point, they would need to come to a board member at this time.
Correct.
So, thank you. So if anyone has additions, corrections, I would encourage them to contact the board member directly.
Yes. And as noted, it is in its entirety posted on your division website.
And it has been for days.
Yes, it has. And throughout the process, we've been putting out the drafts. We put out the draft mission and vision. We put out the draft goals. When we got to objectives, we also put those out. So throughout the process, we've maintained updates on the division website.
And Mr. Chair, if it's okay, I know Mr. Ely's email might be broken, but my phone number is 804-731-3385. Anytime that anyone wants to call, please do so. Because, and that's true for everyone here. You know, I'm not saying that no one wants to. I didn't mean that. You know, his phone's always working too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It works.
Sorry. What I'm saying is, it's not too late to have input, but you need to come directly to a board member for this. I know it's important. I know we've been working a long time. There's been great effort by the staff, countless hours. I know some of those meetings were 4 and I don't know, I'm gonna say 5 hours, because some of our staff would stay afterwards and continue to work on it. And they've wordsmithed it, they've made it concise, which is a big, I guess, request of mine.
We heard you.
Yeah, so we appreciate that. We've made it where we can remember the things and work on it, and they're meaningful. And this is what guides our school division for 5 years now. And every so many months, the school divisions, they measure where they are on these goals and objectives. It's very serious. And every word in there means something. And the accountability is there. And it's something we get a report on several times a year. And it's something we can ask about all the time. So we appreciate a tremendous effort by yourself, everyone who's been involved, because it has been across every department, every school, everyone has had representation. We're grateful for the tremendous effort. And it's a lot of times, and I know it's easy to come in and find fault with things, but it's not too late. If there's something that needs to be addressed, it needs to be addressed.
You know, and one of the things that maybe Betsy and I can talk about is adding that definition for educational equity, so that when people see that, they understand what we mean by it.
This is not critical race hidden somewhere in the word. This is being fair to all our students.
And just a reminder, this is a living document. This is a 5-year plan, and things will change and things will come off and go on, just depending on what has been accomplished. So you might accomplish one element of the plan in a year, and then it's not something that will be the focus. So it is a living, changing document over the course of that time frame.
And mainly it's the strategies and tactics that change. As long as the strategies and tactics are working, we continue on that path. If they're not, we try other strategies and tactics.
Well, Ms. Smith, thank you for all your hard work. I know I've said it before, but we appreciate every minute, second you've spent with us and to help us get us to the point where we are in August. Couldn't have done without you, and we greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Next up is the discussion item for BSBA May 2021 policy revisions, part 1, Dr. Pennycoff.
The school division contracts with VSBA for policy manual services. The staff attorney for VSBA reviews the legislation adopted each year by the General Assembly, as well as changes to federal law, and then makes the changes to the policy accordingly. An explanation of the revisions is attached, and changes to the policies are designated by underlining new language and striking through deleted language. VSBA encourages the school board to review the attached revised policies, and then they will be presented at the August 2nd meeting for approval.
Any questions for Dr. Pennycoff? Hearing none, moving on to 2021-22 Student Conduct and Safety Handbook, Mr. Barnes.
Mr. Ely, you have the code of conduct proposed in front of you. It just contains all of the changes that Dr. Pennycup spoke about, the policy revisions. In the code of conduct handbook, they are outlined or underlined in red. So to show you the changes, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them and we'll go over those. But the policy is there and for your review and hopefully your approval in August.
Thank you, Mr. Barnes. Any questions? Next up, discussion items, online payment for schools, Monique Barnes. Ms. Barnes, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Ely. In an effort to reduce the amount of cash flowing through the school buildings and to provide a contactless means for parents, students, and faculty to purchase tickets, pay for fundraising activities, field trips, activity fees, etc., we recently viewed a web demonstration provided by Edleo. This is the division's website provider. So Edleo houses our website, and each URL or school has the option to have a special page and account, which allows the division to seamlessly integrate the online payment process with our website as well. So the payment page utilizes the format of the hosting schools page, and therefore the page mimics the website. So regarding the security of the site, the division may determine who has access to creating the pages, or, excuse me, my contacts are stuck to my eyeballs, creating the page or form in different types and types of payments that can be posted. This process will go through a workflow for approval before the page or form goes to live in the website. The site is secure and allows for encrypted payments, thus protecting the purchaser. And regarding notification and reconciliation following online payments, the bookkeeper would receive an email advising that the payment has been made. If need be, we can also add another individual or other individuals to the list who would receive an email every time a payment is made, and such as the principal or the assistant principals. Also, the purchaser receives an email for confirmation. So payments are processed from Edlio on the 1st and the 16th of each month via ACH, and there are several reports that are available. And these include transaction reports as well as payout statements. And these can be imported into Excel. And the system also integrates with EPES, which is the software that our schools use. It's their accounting system. The only associated fees that are that of a convenience fee that would be passed on to the purchaser. And this is a 4% transaction fee plus 35 cents per transaction. And of this, Edlio receives 1.75% of this. The credit card receives 2.25%. And then the transaction fee of 35 cents also goes to the credit card. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Mr. Johnson?
What are we using currently for food services? I know parents can do that online.
They sure can. We use My School Bucks. The fees are actually higher.
Oh, they're higher.
Yes, sir.
And have we tried to negotiate these fees?
We have not. We thought it was a reasonable fee, and I think it's standard for Edlio, but we can certainly check on that.
You usually don't give what you don't ask for.
It's true. It seemed, typically they'll charge you 3% for credit cards. Yeah. And so the 2.25% seemed fair, and 35 cents for a transaction fee didn't seem. And of course, this is passed on to the purchaser instead of absorbed by the school division. I can certainly check with it. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
What is the implementation cost?
There's not one.
Is any cost in training our people to handle it?
No, sir.
See three heads shaking all at one time.
Yes. Ms. Christopher was with me on that demo. So we're all very, very pleased, excited, and especially since it's seamless with our website.
Any other questions? Okay, next up. Financial report.
Okay. In your packet is the financial report for the period ending June 30th, 2021. In summary, as of June 30th, the regular fund had expended and obligated $67,267,289 and had 1.5% of its fiscal year 21 expenditure budget remaining. And this compares with 1.1% of the fiscal year 20 expenditure budget remaining at the same time last year. And also as of June 30th of 2021, 99.2% of our budgeted revenue had been received, and this is $67,742,458. And this compares to 100% having been received this time last year of our fiscal year 21 budgeted revenue. But an important thing to remember is included in this number is almost $700,000 in open purchase orders, which of course you've approved rolling $354,000 of that. But we're still receiving invoices and closing purchase orders, so our final total will be different. During the months of July and August, we'll continue paying bills, and we also received 2 additional months of state sales tax. While last year we had received 100% of our budgeted revenue by the end of June, we also received 2 more months of sales tax. And so, this is called period 13. So we'll continue to bring 2 more financial statements to you to show you where we're ending up, because we have to pull back everything that is paid that should have been a June 30th expenditure. Anything that's received, any invoices by August the 15th, we have to pull them into last year. And any revenue we receive that should have been last year has to be pulled back into last year's. And then sales tax is that. And I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Any questions for Ms. Barnes?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And one thing before that I meant to mention in my school board member comment, our resource officer at the high school, Officer Jones, just recently lost his wife. So if you can keep Officer Jones in your prayers, he certainly will need them over the next several days, months, weeks to come. He's a fine gentleman. He was our resource officer at Clements, and now he's over at the high school, and does nothing but a great service for us. So if we can give some service back to him, prayers for his family, that would be greatly appreciated. I know for him, he's gonna need it. So at this time, we need a motion to go back into closed session.
Can I say one thing?
Yep, I'm sorry.
Sorry, thank you. I'm not sure who laid the, Prince George High School yearbooks up here for us, but thank you. They're really very nice, and thank you for the wonderful gift.
Becky brought them from the high school, and they're a gift from the high school.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now I need a motion to go back into closed session.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Smith,
A second.
second by Ms. Andrews. Roll call, please.
Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Andrews?
Yes.
Mr. Ely?
Yes, just know that I do not know how long we will be, but we will come back out and take a vote on things if we need to. Okay? Thank you all.